Mahomes looks to throw it. Pump faking, right side. He wants it. A comeback. It is caught by Kelsey. Touchdown! Kansas City. The game is over. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions. How about those Chiefs?
Welcome to another episode of the Kingdom Korner here with Andrew and Dale. This episode brought to you by Ohay Threads, where a portion of every purchase goes to support missions all over the world, one super soft tee at a time. This episode, we will be previewing the Super Bowl 57 matchup against the Eagles, and this episode is going to be a little bit different. This episode, we actually teamed up with the host from the Chalk Talk, which is an Eagles podcast, and so we are going to be letting you listen to that conversation with their host, Shane, and so I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 91 of Chalk Talk, brought to you by The Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half, and you can follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. I'm joined today by Andrew and Dale of the Kingdom Korner podcast. You can check them out on Twitter. I just tweeted out a link, so you can find it there. We are going to preview the Super Bowl. Got some Chiefs guys in here because you guys hear from me about the Eagles all the time. We're going to talk about the Chiefs, dig in deep on what's going on the other side of the ball. Andrew, Dale, how are you guys doing today?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're pumped and excited for the Super Bowl, that's for sure.
All right, third Super Bowl in 4 years. I doubt the excitement ever wears off, but I'm hoping the Eagles get on that trajectory here. Maybe we just make this an annual thing. We can do a preview podcast together.
That'd be all right if we could alternate wins. Right?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to concede that. But... All right, well, let's dive into it here. I've got some Chiefs questions for them. They've got some Eagles questions for me, but we're going to start off talking about the Chiefs. So you guys just give me a confidence check here. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, Dale, how confident do you feel heading into this game?
Yeah, I'm probably a 7 right now. Confidence. I think it's all looking at Patrick Mahomes and his ankle, and it's looking a lot better. So I think when you have 1-5 in the backfield there, you got a pretty good shot to beat any team.
Yeah, okay, I got a 7. Andrew, how about you? Where are you at confidence scale-wise?
Man, my confidence goes back and forth depending on who I'm listening to, it seems like. So, but I'm sure by the time we get to the game, it'll be even different. But right now, I'm at about a 6. So I'm feeling confident. The closer we get, that number keeps going up.
All right. Well, let me ask. So let's talk about the AFC title game. The Chiefs sacked Joe Burrow 5 times in that game. They pressured him 43% of his dropbacks. Andrew, do you think the Chiefs are going to be able to get home against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' offensive line? Was this more a function of the Bengals' O-line injuries? Tell me what to expect in the trenches from the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both those things. A little bit both of the Bengals being banged up on the offensive line, but the other side is, as you probably know, the Eagles led the league in sacks this year, but the Chiefs were right behind them. And by right behind them, I mean significantly behind them, but they were second in the league in sacks this year. And so it's not a coincidence or just a fluke that the Chiefs were able to get after the quarterback. Chris Jones has been on a tear in this playoffs. He has heard the chatter from before the AFC Championship game that throughout his playoff career, he has yet to sack the quarterback. And so last week he got himself 2 sacks, and I think that's going to continue. Now, no fault to or no disrespect at all to the Eagles' offensive line, because I think it's one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the league. But Frank Clark comes alive during the playoffs, and then you got him matched up with Chris Jones. I'm not saying they're going to have the same success against the Eagles that they did against the Bengals, but I for sure think they'll be able to get some pressure against Jalen Hurts as long as they can contain him in the pocket.
All right. Dale, do you have anything you got to add to that one, or you want me to throw? Yeah,
I think that offensive line you guys got over there in Philly is pretty something else. It's fun to watch your offensive line just move people around. And so the Chiefs, the defensive line, they got a big challenge ahead of them with that. So Spags will have something game planned, I'm sure, but it's fun to watch that offensive line. I think the most important thing, not about getting pressure on Jalen Hurts, but containing him, I think would be the most important thing, would be just containing, keeping him in that pocket and not letting him beat us on it with his feet.
All right. So Let's talk about injuries. Keeping with the theme here of the AFC title game, the Chiefs got a lot of injuries in that game. Obviously, Justin Watson, which I believe is wide receiver 5, was ruled out pregame, which doesn't seem huge until Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, and Juju Smith-Schuster all left with injuries. On top of that, Patrick Mahomes obviously has the really bad-looking ankle injury in the Jags game, and he's able to play through that somehow. I will never forget the picture of him hopping on one foot for a first down scramble. He looked good, I thought, in the Bengals game, but in the third quarter he had a play, or maybe it was the fourth quarter, I can't remember, where he was rolling left and he kind of had to flip the hips and zip one downfield, and I thought he kind of came up a little gimpy after that, and it looked quite... How concerned are you about wide receiver depth and Mahomes' ankle going into this game, especially thinking about that Eagles pass rush that's racked up 78 sacks this season?
Yeah, I think just for me, I think most of those guys are going to go. I think Tony's going to go. I think Juju's going to go. I think it hasn't been officially ruled out. I would say Mecole Hardman is going to be ruled out with that injury. I mean, he took a significant hit there. But I think with Andy Reid in 2 weeks, I mean, I know Philly fans know Andy Reid. 2 weeks off that win will give them plenty of time to come up with some schemes, some quick screens, and things like that. So I think after the first quarter, we'll kind of know how healthy those guys are.
Yeah, you talked about Andy Reid's screen game, and the Eagles have been trying to find a screen game ever since Andy Reid left, and it's always terrible. Except maybe they might have found it throwing screens to Dallas Goedert now, but screens are the bane of Eagles fans' existence, and it's been that way ever since Reid left. Okay.
Yeah, I'd throw out to you, Mecole Hardman did just officially get put on the IR just earlier today, and so he's officially out, and they activated Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back who's been out for quite a few weeks now, and so he's going to be activated for the Super Bowl, but I don't expect him to have a large role in that. But to Dale's point, I think most of these guys are going to be up for the challenge to play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I saw the Clyde Edwards-Helaire news. I had not seen Mecole Hardman, so Hardman is out. Running back rotation-wise, it seemed like to me Isaiah Pacheco started to take that before Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt, and I would say he's probably got a firm grasp on that. Obviously, Jerick McKinnon, late down the stretch, kind of went on a run as a receiving back. He helped spur me to a fantasy football title game. So thanks to the waiver wire there. But do you expect to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire a lot? Do you think it's just sort of a running back 3 thing? How do you think that'll play out?
I think Clyde will kind of fill in when and if needed, but I think for the most part he's going to be there just for a backup role and a role player more than anything. I think Pacheco's firmly grasped that number 1 spot, and as you point out with McKinnon and his screen game and short passing game that he's had success with, I doubt that Clyde is going to get playing time over those two.
All right.
Yeah.
So coming into this season, there was a lot of talk about the Chiefs offense. I think a lot of people expected the Chiefs offense to take a step back. I mean, you trade Tyreek Hill, and then you have the stuff in the offseason where Tyreek Hill is like, yeah, Tua throws a more accurate ball than Patrick Mahomes. And I was like, man, find somebody who loves you the way that Tyreek Hill loves whatever quarterback he currently plays for. But I think everybody probably expected the Chiefs to take a step back offensively, and they've really done the opposite this season. The Chiefs' EPA per play was .167 last season. It's .201 this year. It's a 20% increase, like 20% better than they were with Tyreek Hill, which is just unbelievable to me. You guys watch the Chiefs every week. How has their offense evolved this year, and why is it better without the most explosive receiver in the NFL?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with even in the previous years, the teams have been playing 2 deep safeties on the Chiefs, and they had to learn to adjust that they couldn't just hit the big play every game. And so even before Tyreek Hill left, they were forcing Mahomes to try to find those underneath throws and forcing him to take them. And he wasn't doing that early in his career. He's always looking for that big home run play. But with the coaching of Andy Reid and some of the others, he kind of started taking those plays that were given to him and those situations given to him. And so when Tyreek Hill left, it just kind of forced Mahomes once again to kind of adjust his game and kind of look for the open guy rather than just for the big home run play. And a big part of that is the play calling of Andy Reid, putting those guys in huge situations. But I think Mahomes being able to extend plays and such. We believe as Chiefs fans, if we have Mahomes on our team, we always have a shot to win, right? And so there's a lot of talk coming into this season that the Chiefs are going to not even be able to win their own division, let alone make the playoffs, and maybe a wild card team. And we kind of say, well, all these teams have done a lot to try to compete against the Chiefs and kind of upset the Chiefs, but we've always said on paper doesn't always translate to the field. And so until we see a product on the field that's actually going to upset the Chiefs or throw the reigning champs off their throne, there's no reason to write them off. And so I think the reason for the increased amount in the offense this year is just simply because they're taking what the defense has given them rather than just looking for those big plays. And so this year Mahomes doesn't just rely on Hill and Kelsey. He's having to rely on these other guys, whether he wants to or not, because Hill's not there.
Yeah, what's crazy to me is you look at last year versus this year, they actually have more explosive plays, passes of 20-plus yards this year than either of the last 2 years, despite Mahomes' average depth of target being lower. Like they have more yards after the catch this season than any offense in the last 20 years. It's just incredible what they've been able to do offensively. And to your point about the Chiefs always being in the game, you've always got a shot if Mahomes is there. Mahomes has started 93 games for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have led or been within one score in the fourth quarter in 90 of those 93 games. Like you don't blow this team out. Now, obviously, one of those was a Super Bowl loss to the Buccaneers, where a pass rush just wrecked the game, and so us Eagles fans, us Eagles fans are hoping that that's a blueprint that can be repeated this upcoming week. So let's flip it over. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Dale, in the AFC title game, the Chiefs had 5 rookies. 5 play 25% of the snaps or more on defense. They had 3 rookie cornerbacks play over 50 snaps. Rookies played 418 snaps in that game for the Chiefs, which is the most by any team in any win this season. In fact, 11 of their 53 players on their roster are rookies, which is sometimes a product. When you pay a quarterback $500 million, you've got to get young other places and cheap. But does the amount of rookie players on the field give you any level of concern going into the Super Bowl?
Well, yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit of concern. I mean, we joked on our podcast, I think last time, that Brett Veach would probably get the MVP of the AFC, just having those rookies and the coaching staff developing those rookies. And to see them, like, I know, like, right now in this point in the season, they're not rookies anymore. They're NFL players, and they're playing hard. But it does give me a little concern because a couple of those plays, I watched the game a couple times after, and those rookies did make a few mistakes, but didn't, like, kill them. And so I think that would be the level of concern, that they could be out of position and then get torched with your running game and the 2 great wide receivers and tight end y'all have up there. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a concern, but I think Spags will have a great game plan for them and ready to go. All
right. So it's not just rookies on defense either. Like, you look at offense and defense. Chiefs rookies have combined for 4,087 snaps this season. On the flip side, the Eagles have only 989 snaps by rookies. I look at this matchup and I try to figure out who has the experience edge. Like, the Eagles feel like the more veteran team, and yet the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl 3 out of the last 4 years. Andrew, who has the edge in terms of experience in this game?
Man, it kind of depends on which way you look at it, right? Because if you look at just from a general standpoint, I would lean towards the Chiefs just because they've been there year after year for the past couple of years. And Chiefs fans haven't always been able to say that, so we're grateful for this moment that we have. But just the culture the Chiefs have been able to build with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, and like the GM with Brett Veach, they've built a culture of championship culture, and so that permeates a lot of things. But the other side is I think the Eagles might have more experience just simply in some of their veteran play because they've been doing it for a long time. They have some of the newer guys too, like Jalen Hurts hasn't been there for too long, and some of the other people like Devontae Smith. But then you got guys like AJ Brown who's been in the league for a while, and guys like Jason Kelsey, and so you guys got a lot of veteran players all over your team, and so it's going to just come down to a lot of different things depending on how you look at it. But I don't know if I give the edge to anyone in particular. if you look on the offensive side, I might give it to the Chiefs, but if you look on the defensive side, I'd probably give it to the Eagles.
All right. So these last couple questions, I want to get an answer from each of you. Dale, I'll start with you on this one. Give me one under-the-radar player that Eagles fans should be looking for to maybe have a big game. So no Patrick Mahomes, no Travis Kelce. Tell me a name that people might not know that the Eagles fans should be watching out for.
I think our linebackers, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, are going to be huge. Are going to have to play a huge game to slow that running game down. So I think watch for those two guys in the middle of the field and see what they do. I know Willie Gay is very aggressive, and sometimes that aggressiveness will betray him and thinking that, hey, it's going to be a run and it's play action, and the guy that he was guarding is already halfway down the field. So I think those two guys are going to have two big games, and a lot of people don't know Nick Bolton. He's a quiet guy on the Chiefs team, but he's a leader. He's a second-year player and almost led the league in tackles. I think one guy led more tackles than him, or had more tackles than him from the Lions. But yeah, it's just or Jacksonville. But yeah, it'd be those two guys that I think would be under the radar.
All right, I was a big Nick Bolton fan back in his draft. I was pounding the table for the Eagles to go get him. So I'm very, very familiar with his game. He's a guy that I'm going to be talking about a lot this week. Andrew, what about you? Give me an under the radar name to watch out for from the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the guy that we've talked about a lot in our podcast this year is Mr. Carlos Dunlap, a defensive line guy who's been on the edge. He's not even a starter, but when he gets in, he makes plays. He's a veteran guy. He's been around the league for quite a while, and but whenever he's on the field, he makes sacks. He makes big stops when he needs to, and so that's a guy to watch out for in the Chiefs' defensive side.
Okay, Andrew, after the game, I'm telling you right now, the Chiefs won the game. You're on this podcast after the game. Why did they win? What went right?
What went right is that they were able to contain Jalen Hurts from running the football. The Chiefs have not been good at stopping their run very well, especially running quarterbacks. And so if they're able to contain Jalen Hurts and contain the big plays throughout the game, the Chiefs will win this game.
All right. Dale, what about you? Aside from containing the mobile quarterback, what went right if the Chiefs win this game?
The Chiefs had a running game in this game. Pacheco goes for 90 yards, 100 yards, and they control the game. I think that would be the best way. Instead of letting the Eagles control it, the Chiefs are going to have to control this game from the start.
Okay, now the flip question. The Chiefs lost the game. Dale, you're breaking it down. You're breaking it down on King of the Corner after the game while I'm partying on my post-game show. Yeah. What went wrong? Why did the Chiefs lose?
The defensive line and the linebackers couldn't tackle. I think that's where it happens. We'll get into the Eagles, but I don't know how healthy Jalen Hurts' shoulder is and all that. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions around that, but I think with that running game, and I think there's the three-headed monster. I guess you count Hurts 4, where they could just run all over you and you don't know which way it's coming. I think it would be the defensive line and linebackers had a tough day.
All right. Andrew, same question. Chiefs lost. What went wrong?
Well, I'm going to have to say that probably the Chiefs' offensive line did not do their job. The Chiefs' offensive line has been back and forth this year. They've had some games they've looked like all pros and games that they look like it's surprising that they're a starter in the NFL. Right, and so if the Chiefs' offensive line is able to not necessarily keep the Eagles completely out of the backfield, but if they're able to give Patrick Mahomes enough time to get down the field and get guys open, it's going to be good for them. But if the Chiefs lose, it's going to be a lot on that offensive line protecting Mahomes from that very, very good Chiefs defense or the Eagles defensive front.
All right, and so here it is. Let's save this last question for the very end. We'll talk game predictions, Super Bowl MVP predictions. Let's save that for the very end. So I'll step out of the host chair here and we'll flip the script. And I think you guys had some questions about the Eagles for me, so we'll flip the script here and let you guys take the podium.
Yeah, I think the first question we have to ask is, as Chiefs fans, we've kind of come to with Mahomes and Andy Reid, we've kind of come to accept that the Chiefs should be in the Super Bowl every year, whether they get there or not. That's one thing, but we almost expect them to be in the Super Bowl every year. So what were the expectations for the Eagles when the year started?
I thought the Eagles were a floor, like a 10-win team. I thought that was their floor. And I would have said their ceiling was somewhere around 12 wins. I thought this was a 10 to 12 win team that was going to win their division. I didn't expect Dallas to be as good as they were. I thought they would win the NFC East, which I thought would be a poor division. It turned out to put 3 teams in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
I would not have expected them to go 14-3, be a 1 seed, be in the Super Bowl. And yeah, a lot of that expands that ceiling for me was just the development of Jalen Hurts. I said before the season started that I thought there was about a 50-50 shot the Eagles would have a new starting quarterback in 2024. And, the Eagles kicked a first-round draft pick into this year. They notably inquired about, like, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Thankfully, neither of those worked out for various reasons. But the leap that he took this season is just unbelievable. And nobody that's truly analyzing it saw that coming. There's some homers that saw that coming, that thought he should have won the MVP last year or something somehow. So I thought 10 to 12 wins. If you would have told me that Hurts was going to take the leap that he took, I would have probably expected a similar outcome to what happened this season.
Yeah, so along the same lines, and if you would have known before the season started that the Eagles made the Super Bowl, but say they lose the Super Bowl, would that still have been considered a successful season?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there'll be disappointment if the Eagles don't win, but
right.
When you enter the season unsure about your quarterback, and you enter the season really unsure about your head coach, who was a first-year head coach, and you end that season knowing for sure that you have your franchise quarterback, knowing for sure that your head coach is really good at his job, that's got to be a successful season. Now, it would be really disappointing if they don't win it because they have so many pending free agents on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect their defense to take a step back next year, but they've got cap space. They've got 2 first-round picks this year. They've got the capital to continue to improve this team. It doesn't feel like a win right this second window. The window is open. So it's a successful season, but it will still be a disappointing end if they can't put the cherry on top.
So what do you attribute the success or the turnaround? What would you say? Is it the coach? Is it GM? Is it Hurts? What would you say this attribute the success to?
It's a lot of those things. The work that Hurts has improved so much, and your natural tendency is to give that to the coaching staff, and they play a role, but you don't improve your mechanics in the season. You just don't have time for that. That's why these guys hire QB coaches in the offseason. And the work that it all starts with the work that he put in the offseason to get better as a player, and the work Howie Roseman, the GM, did this offseason to build that roster. I mean, they went out and they signed Hassan Reddick to $15 million a year deal, and he almost led the NFL in sacks. They went out and they got Kazir White. They went out and they traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So feels like every move that Howie did this offseason hit. Jalen Hurts took a leap, and along the way you found out, hey, this coaching staff is really, really good as well.
So how is your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 walking into this game?
People asked me before the AFC title game, who should the Eagles want to play? Who do they match up better with? And my answer was, I have no idea. Like, you would like to face the Bengals offensive line because I feel like you can just annihilate that. But they have better receivers. I think they've got a better secondary in some parts. Their coaching's not that good. But in most ways, I feel like the Eagles match up with the Chiefs better, but that's you consciously saying, hey, I would like to play Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, and that just feels insane. So I couldn't decide who I wanted to play. Now that we're here, I'm glad it's the Chiefs. Obviously, I love Andy Reid and all that. So that's a fun storyline coming into the game. But I would say my confidence level is probably around a 6, 7-ish, somewhere in there. There's some things up in the air with Jalen Hurts' shoulder and A.J. Brown's hamstring. And, the last time which it wasn't the same defense, and it's not the same Chiefs offense, but the Chiefs torched the Jonathan Gannon defense in 2021. So there's some elements of apprehension there as well.
Yeah, and I remember when Andy Reid first came over to the Chiefs from the Eagles, it was a really quick turnaround from the time he left the Eagles to the time he signed with the Chiefs. Man, and I recall several Eagles fans, and it might have been you too. I'm not sure, but somebody made the comment. He was like, "Well, you'll get a really good coach, but you probably won't win many championships, if any." And so, that was kind of the mindset with Andy Reid throughout the league was he's a great coach. He just can't win the big game. And now he's won the big game. You can contribute that to him or Mahomes or whoever. But how does Philly feel overall and Eagles fans feel overall about Andy Reid now that they've won a Super Bowl as well?
Andy Reid, Eagles fans, I think they feel better about Reid now that they've won their own Super Bowl. It wasn't, we loved Andy Reid when he was here. I thought it was time for Reid to go after the 2012 season when they went 4-12. And I thought Andy was still a good coach, and I thought he would go somewhere and have success. But sometimes you just need a fresh start, go somewhere, new ideas. And I think you see that with other coaches. I mean, what is Bill Belichick doing in New England right now? I mean, he's got to still be a good coach, right? But it's just time. And that happened, I think, for Reid. And there was some, Reid struggled with clock management. He still does at times, game management. And I don't think it's unfair to say that he wasted a fantastic 2004 team. The Eagles should have won the Super Bowl that year. That 2004 team is better by any metric that you look at than this 2022 team. And so there was mixed feelings. I never disliked Andy Reid, but I did think it was time for him to go. I was happy that he found another job, and I'm glad he does well. And I do think there's not, like with the Giants, which are a division rival, with the 49ers, who we didn't have any problems with until they spent a week whining about losing after the game. There's been a lot of back and forth and hostilities online, and I haven't seen that with Chiefs fans, and I don't expect that because I think a lot of Eagles fans sort of adopted the Chiefs as their AFC team once that's where Reid landed.
Oh, and there's I would say the Eagles and the Chiefs are probably the two greatest fan bases in football. There's some of the most passionate fans you'll find around. But I did see on Twitter that was pretty funny. This Andy Reid will finally be able to give Philly a Super Bowl.
Yes, he can do it. He can do it. And if Andy gives the Eagles a Super Bowl, all is forgiven. Let's go.
Well, forgiven on your end,
maybe. I didn't care for the comment, but I did chuckle. So that's pretty funny. So
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, and also, as we've kind of pointed to before, the Eagles led the league in sacks this year by a mile. I mean, they were huge. But the other side is that Mahomes is one of the most elusive quarterbacks in the NFL of just knowing where the pressure is and escaping it and so forth. So how do you think the Eagles will do matching up to Mahomes' elusiveness?
I think the Eagles' pass rush hasn't really met a challenge that they couldn't, take down yet this year. The 49ers were supposed to have a pretty good O-line, and I think they do, minus McGlinchey was obviously a weak spot at right tackle. And so I'll pop him out there until he comes back. The Chiefs, they've got a really good interior O-line. Creed Humphrey, which my podcast listeners know I'm an Oklahoma fan. I was huge on Creed Humphrey. I had a high first-round grade on him in his draft, and he ended up going at the end of the second. And he's probably, in my opinion, he's the second best center in the league already, behind only Jason Kelce. So if you like centers, this is a great game for you to watch, although I don't know many sickos that like to watch centers. Maybe it's just me. But Joe Tooney, Trey Smith. Trey Smith's another guy. They got that same draft. I think it was the 6th round. I had a 2nd-round grade on Trey Smith. So I'm very high on guys that the Chiefs drafted. They're really strong in the interior. Where I think they're vulnerable is their offensive tackles. Orlando Brown on the left side, he hasn't been as good as advertised, I would say, when he came in from the Ravens. Andrew Wiley is interesting to me. ESPN has him ranked 9th in pass block win rate. I don't understand why. And to me, Andrew Wiley is the weak point of that offensive line. And maybe, I think it's just when he gets beat really fast, and it doesn't happen all the time. But when it does, it's super fast and impactful. But he's given up 9 sacks and 53 pressures, and he's got 9 penalties this year. And that's the side Hassan Reddick rushes off of, the Eagles' best pass rusher, and he just murdered Mike McGlinchey. So to me, it comes down a lot to that matchup. I think Josh Sweat can get, Orlando Brown some off the left, but the pressure should be coming off of that right side with Hassan Reddick against Andrew Wiley. And Reddick's been really good at finishing pressures this year. He doesn't just get home. When he wins quick. He attacks the arm of the quarterback. He forces fumbles, those sorts of things. So Patrick Mahomes has an uncanny ability just to sense pressure and slide up in the pocket. And I wouldn't classify him as a scrambling quarterback. He's elusive. Watching him scramble is just irritating because he looks like my uncle running down the street, right? It doesn't look impressive, but he's just this much faster than the guy that's chasing him. I heard somebody on one of my other podcasts said that when he scrambles, it looks like he's running with a beer in his hand or something. Like he's just like, don't spill it, right? And I think that containing him is going to be big, keeping eyes on him, and you just got to get home. You're going to get your opportunities. You've got to get him to the ground when it happens and put him behind the sticks. Yeah,
and Mahomes has been known to say multiple times, he says, I'm not fast, I'm just faster than the guy chasing me.
Yeah, and, exactly.
And to your point, we absolutely agree that the tackles are the weak spot of the Chiefs' offensive line. Absolutely. And we kind of, at the beginning of the season, talked about the people we liked who are non-position players. And my guy was Trey Smith right there in the middle of that offensive line there at right guard. And so, we would agree to that. Interior offensive line for the Chiefs is big. And, man, Orlando Brown has been kind of, him and Wiley kind of been the guys who've been getting beat a lot. And it seems like whenever they get beat, it's usually in key moments. And that's what kind of frustrates a lot of Chiefs fans, is just that those guys are not playing consistently when they need to. And it took Mahomes getting hurt in that Jaguars game for the offensive line to kind of step up, and those tackles in particular to step up and start playing at a higher level. And we're like, man, we want that kind of performance and that kind of play before an injury even has to happen. So it's definitely frustrating in those kind of areas.
Yeah, I do. I got a question for you about that injury.
Yeah.
So people have made the statement, the assertion that Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback. Now, what I have to ask is, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. He comes out for one drive, and Chad Henne leads a 97-yard touchdown drive. So what I need to know is Patrick Mahomes a system quarterback?
Well, I got
kidding,
several.
By the way.
I know. I got this. You're going to get me going here. But first off, it was a 98-yard touchdown drive led by Chad Henne because it was the longest touchdown drive in Chiefs postseason history. But I think
that will
Andy
be a
Reid,
trivia question no one will be able to answer in 20 years. No one will know the answer.
They'll say, what quarterback led the Chiefs on the longest postseason drive for a touchdown? Yeah, anyways. But so, Patrick Mahomes is not a system quarterback. I know you're joking with that, but I think Andy Reid is just a great quarterback coach as well. And so even a couple years ago when Mahomes got hurt because he dislocated his kneecap, Matt Moore came in and won us a couple games. And Matt Moore at the time, Chad Henne got hurt too, so they brought Matt Moore in from a teaching job because he'd retired from the NFL. He comes in, wins a game or two for the Chiefs. And so I think it goes to just show how Andy Reid prepares his quarterbacks for that. And I think it's a show, and just to shout out Chad Henne, right, that even as a backup, he's prepared for that moment, came in and threw the ball right away, right? I think they ran the ball the first play, and then they passed it, and he didn't have a lot of passing yards on that drive, so I think he had 21 yards passing on that drive, so it wasn't like he was the key guy, but he did lead him on that drive. So, no, Mahomes is not a system quarterback, but Andy Reid's just that good of a quarterback coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's ask you the same kind of question. So how do you see the Eagles winning this game?
If the Eagles win this game, it's going to be off – on offense, it's going to be off the strength of their play in the trenches. I think they need to be able to run the football, establish the run. They're one of the best teams in the NFL at running the ball this year. They've got the ability to go – they've done it all year. They get these leads, and then they go on these 8-minute, just back-breaking 20-play drives where they just grind the ball out, grind the clock. And I think they need to be able to do that some. I don't think you want to be in the business of getting in a shootout with Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to go well. I think they need to be able to establish the run on offense. Jalen Hurts' deep ball has been shaky since he's come back from injury. He's only 3 of 10 passing beyond 20 yards. And one of those was the Devontae Smith 4th and 3 that, we learned later on review. That wasn't really a catch, but it was ruled out on the field. So it's just been off. Now, I don't know if that's like sample size, noise of a small sample size. It was really windy in the 49ers game, things like that. But it just hasn't been quite the same. And yet they've been able to run the ball really well. So they need to be able to do that on offense. On defense, I think a lot of it comes down to coverage. Like the Eagles have a ton of sacks, but they don't have this just as amazingly fast time to sack. It's around middle of the pack in the NFL. I don't remember the exact number, but it's because the coverage has been good. Like the coverage has to be good in this game, and I think that means changing it up a little more. Jonathan Gannon has played a pretty vanilla defense this year at times, a lot of quarter stuff, much to the chagrin of Eagles fans. Except for me, I've been trying to teach them what quarters is because it's a good scheme. Anyways, against the 49ers, I thought we saw him with a pretty individualized game plan. They were sitting on in-breaking routes because they knew that Brock Purdy likes to throw intermediate middle of the field. And so there were some times that corners got burned on double moves, sluggos, things like that because we were sitting on those in-breaking routes and the pass rush got home so we didn't get torched. They need a specific game plan for this. Patrick Mahomes will take those 5 and 10-yard throws, particularly to Travis Kelce, all day if you let him. I think they're going to have to roll out some different things. You're not going to give him anything he hasn't seen before, but try to make him guess a little bit after the snap.
Yeah, so if the Eagles lose, why do you think they would have lost the game?
Because they didn't do that. No. If the Eagles lose... Yeah, if the Eagles lose, it's because they're not able to slow down the offense. And you're not going to slow down the offense a lot. Like if you get 3-4 stops, that needs to be enough. Your offense has to put up points. And the Eagles have been really good at not turning the ball over. I don't think they lose this game because they implode offensively and turn the ball over. If they lose this game, it's because they don't tackle well on defense. They're not able to limit the yards after the catch. And they're just unable to address Travis Kelce and Jerick McKinnon. And so if they come up with plans for those defensively, I feel good about their chances.
All right. Well, let me ask you this here. We are looking at some of the stats and stuff, and the Eagles have one of the best defenses in the league. They're number 2 overall as far as yards per game. But they're not in the top 10 when it comes to stopping the run. They're more middle of the pack towards the end. So does it worry you at all that the Eagles might have to try to stop Pacheco and potentially Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back too, who's a much bigger back running?
Not particularly. The Eagles were really bad about stopping the run early in the year. And then they lost a game because they couldn't stop the run. And Howie Roseman was like, hey, what if we just go sign Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh to make sure this isn't a problem anymore? Might have been an overreaction, but they haven't lost because they couldn't stop the run since. They obviously lost 2 games when Hurts was injured, but they've been better at stopping the run. Now, against the 49ers, they went to a lot of 5-down fronts to stop the run, and you obviously don't want to do that against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs like to run heavy personnel, 12 and 13 personnel, and so it is going to be key to watch if the Eagles can stop runs, especially out of heavy personnel, out of those 4-down fronts that they like to play. I feel good about that. Their linebackers have been better at flowing to the ball. Their interior has been better since those signings. But and I'm not super scared of the Chiefs' rushing attack. In fact, I would not mind the Chiefs being able to run the ball because every time they hand the ball off, it means the ball is out of Mahomes' hands. And I'm personally okay with that.
Yeah. And having Sue as a backup is never a bad idea either. That man is a large mountain of a man.
Yeah, it's he's been fun to watch, and I was not a big Ndamukong Suh fan, but maybe it's different when he's on your team, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's how I really would feel with him.
Yeah.
So who has to have a big game for the Eagles for in the Super Bowl?
I think it's Hassan Reddick. You want to get after Mahomes. You want to be able to pressure him, try to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And the best pass rusher that the Eagles have is Reddick. And like I said, when he wins very quickly. And so if he can get a few quick wins, obviously you want to get Mahomes to the ground. But if you can just put in his head early in the game that I'm coming, And when I come, it's going to be fast. Hopefully you can get that clock going in his head and speed everything up. And, not that Mahomes is bad when things are sped up either. It's kind of what facing Mahomes. It's kind of one of those, like, would you prefer to be shot, stabbed, or hung? Like, we're going to get you some way. Just how do you want to go? And that's a little bit how I feel about Mahomes. But I think if Hassan Reddick can have a big game, force a big turnover, that could swing things for the Eagles.
Yeah, does it, I guess off script here, does it worry you about the Chiefs' ability to come back or to score quick or to have those big plays? The last Super Bowl against the 49ers, they were down 10 with, 10 minutes left or 8 minutes left in the game and won by 10. And so does that concern the big plays?
Yeah, absolutely. Eagles fans have not had to sweat out a postseason game this year. They beat the Giants 38-7. They beat the 49ers 31-7. And the second half of the 49ers game, I was just casually watching. Like, there was nothing to be concerned about. I can promise you I would not feel good about a 14-point lead at halftime against the Chiefs. So, if you give me 17 with like 5 minutes left, I might start to feel okay. But, yeah, no lead is safe. I remember I watched them play the Bills last year and get the ball with like 13 seconds left. Like, I will not feel comfortable until the clock hits zeros.
Well, we were both at that game, in fact.
Oh, wow. That would have been a crazy environment to be at.
It was a crazy game, for sure.
Definitely the best game we'll ever see in person, or at all maybe. So it was incredible.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got one last question. Before I get to it, do you guys have anything else for me?
I think that's what we got.
We're good.
Okay, so let's throw it around. We'll just go around the horn here. Andrew, we'll start with you. Give me your game prediction and Super Bowl MVP prediction.
All right, so game prediction. I got to go with the Chiefs. I can't discount Patrick Mahomes at all. I think that last Super Bowl against the Bucs has left a sour taste in both his mouth and the other guys who were on the team, which really isn't very many. I think, if I remember right, only 13 guys on the roster were on that Super Bowl winning team from when they won in 2019, 2020. So him and Travis Kelce, I think, are going to come and have big games. And so they're going to will their team to win. It's still going to be a close game because I think the Eagles are probably the second best team in the NFL, right behind the Chiefs. But Eagles are great, so all respect to them. But I think the final score be somewhere around Chiefs 34, Eagles 28. I think the MVP, if it's not Patrick Mahomes, it just seems like the Super Bowl, they tend to always lean towards the quarterback. But if it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be Travis Kelce.
Yeah, it is almost exclusively, it seems like these days, a quarterback award. But if you can call your shot on one of those other guys, you could make some good money. I think Travis Kelce is like plus 900 to win Super Bowl MVP. And I think Hassan Reddick is like plus 4,000 or something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, I think in the Chiefs' first Super Bowl, well, not the first one, but their last Super Bowl win against the 49ers, Damian Williams deserved the MVP, but Patrick Mahomes got it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just, it tends to be a quarterback award and the regular season award as well. It's a quarterback award. Cooper Kupp should have won Super Bowl MVP last year, but
yes, he should have.
So, all right, so we've got a Chiefs win and a Patrick Mahomes MVP from Andrew. Dale, what do you have for me?
Man, I hate to be. We got the Chiefs Kingdom flag right behind me. I would say that on paper, just looking at rosters, the Eagles have the better team. So that always makes me nervous when you just go from position to position. You're like, okay, they're better. But I think the one position they have is quarterback. That would be, and then the experience that we kind of talked about earlier that they have, which is I just looked up the odds, and I think it's like 50.5 points, which seems really low because I know the Eagles can put points up quick, and I know the Chiefs can put up points quick, and so I don't know what Vegas knows that we don't, but they know something that's maybe going to be more of a defensive battle. And so my initial thought was 42-35 Chiefs. And so I think I'll probably stick with that. I think, being indoors, fast, hopefully get some points up on the board. And that'd be fun for everybody if it was high scoring. I hope it's not 25-21 or something. So, but I guess it depends on who wins.
All right. So, and who's your Super Bowl MVP prediction?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go say Harrison Butker.
Okay. All right.
Kicker. Man.
Kicker prediction.
Man,
All right.
If that comes out and you get some,
I don't know what his odds are to get the MVP, but hey, he's gonna have a big game.
I wonder. I'd have to look it up. I wonder if a kicker has ever won the Super Bowl.
Adam Vinatieri should have won some of those, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
he probably should have, but didn't.
Yeah. So, yeah, I look at, you mentioned the roster. I look at the rosters, and I feel like if you go position by position, the Eagles are better everywhere except quarterback and tight end.
Yeah.
But
and
quarterback.
Goddard's not far. Goddard's not far. He's good.
Yeah. He is. He's good. Man, quarterback. Like you were seeing like the two ideas of how to build an NFL roster.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have the quarterback that every NFL team wants in Patrick Mahomes. Best quarterback I've ever seen play the position. But he's getting paid $500 million. And so that's why Tyreek Hill's not there. That's why you've got 11 rookies on the roster versus the Eagles, who have the QB and the vaunted rookie contract window.
Yeah.
And so they go get A.J. Brown, they go get Hassan Reddick, they go get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and all these guys, and they load up. Like, the Eagles have the roster every quarterback wants to have. The Chiefs have the quarterback everybody wants to have. It's going to be a clash of styles in this one. I'm taking Eagles in this one, 31-27. Think it's going to be a great game. If the Eagles win, then I've got to say the Super Bowl MVP is Jalen Hurts, because it's probably going to be a quarterback. But I'd give an outside shot to Miles Sanders, because I do think if the Eagles, put up a lot of points, there's a chance that Miles Sanders gets a lot of touches. They just split carries so much. It's hard for me to think that anybody other than Jalen Hurts would win if the Eagles walk away with the Lombardi.
Yeah, and just so you know, if you want to put some down on Harrison Becker here, Dale, he's a plus 25,000. So that'll get you a good return if you actually pull that out.
There you go. Throw $100 on Harrison Butker and win you $25K.
There you go. Hey, that wouldn't be bad.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on to join me and holding down the show during my technical issues there in the middle. That's going to be interesting to rewatch later. Before we get out of here, you guys have a Chiefs podcast. Take a second. The floor is yours. Plug your podcast. Anything else you guys have going on?
All right. Well, our podcast is the Kingdom Corner. Man, we're just two pastors who want to create great content for the Chiefs, but create content that's also clean and appropriate for the whole family, because there's a lot of great podcasts out there, but they're not always podcasts you'd want your son listening to. And so we want to create a podcast that's suitable for everybody in all walks of life. And we also want to create great content as well. So you can follow us at the Kingdom Corner on Twitter, and we'll do what we can to continue to create great content and answer any questions you may have. You have anything else to add to that, Dale?
Yeah, Shane, we really appreciate you inviting us to be a part of this. This has been a lot of fun. Again, we're just two guys that love the Chiefs, and we talked about the Chiefs all the time just on the phone, and we always joked we should just create a podcast. And so here we are, just talking about the Chiefs, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to do something like this.
All right. Awesome. So you guys go check them out. It's at Kingdom_Corner. That's with a K on Twitter. They've got a YouTube channel. It's the same thing. You can also check out their podcast on Apple Podcasts. I think it was on Spotify, all those platforms. So you guys go check them out. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode number 91 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, be sure you smash that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Smash that subscribe button. Drop us 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. They are at Kingdom_Corner with a K. So from me, from the guys at Kingdom Corner, from the Painted Lines, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of the Kingdom Corner. If you liked what you heard, make sure you like and subscribe so you can be notified every time we have a new episode go live. We'll see you next time right here in the Kingdom Corner.